What is going on, guys? It is DigiWatch TCG coming to you with a discussion video. Now, first, my question to you are, do you like Royal Knights? Do you like the archetype? Do you like Digimon lore? Well, if you do, stay in tune for this video because this video is going to be going over some of the new cards from BT13. Now, BT13 is a full-on Royal Knight support set, and it is a while away, so there's a lot more to be revealed, but we have a good chunk of them have already been revealed for a few of the Royal Knights, and I'll discuss what potential they potentially have going into the later half of the year. So with that said, please like, subscribe, leave your thoughts below, and let's get into it. So if you're not caught up with Royal Knights usually are the protectors or the digital world in regards to King Yggdrasil. I hope I said that right. This guy you see on screen right now, he's basically a computer program that controls everything in the digital world. There's a lot of lore, not only in the games, but generally just like the mythos of the characters. Each time you have different stories, different seasons. Sometimes they allude to a couple of the different Royal Knights, and they're portrayed either as villains or they'll be portrayed as allies. Or in the games, sometimes if you've played something like Digimon Cyber Sleuth, you know that there's a big line of Royal Knights that come into the game. I won't spoil too much for that, but they are featured in the game. And so we're going to be going over the announcements. Now, I have the translations next to me. Unfortunately, I can't put them on screen, but I will be able to read these off for you so you have a good idea of what the playstyles are and why the set is pretty good. So, starting things off, this is Yggdrasil, 7d6. I don't know if there was a plan or intention for that, but I think that's pretty interesting naming convention. But anyway, this is an egg, so similar to what like the mother is, it's one of those non-level cards, and it doesn't have a level actually at all. It doesn't have any stats on top, so there's no real way at the moment for this card to be promoted into your battle area. So this pretty much stays in raising and the breeding area, and all the effects kind of trigger in the breeding area as well. Starting with the first effect, we have a breeding effect that says your turn, your own Digimon cannot digivolve. So one thing I will mention about the set itself, because like right there and then you're like, what? I can't digivolve? I don't know if this is going to be for me. Well, it may not be, but this is the way that currently this set is set up as. But the way that this kind of works is that you're going to be doing a lot of on-plays with your Royal Knights for reduced cost, which I'll get to in a second. But what's really good about the set too is each individual Royal Knight actually can be used in its own archetype and own color, rather than like kind of a scramble in which this is going to kind of allude to. So let's get into more of the effect. Once per turn, when you would play a Digimon card with Royal Knights and its traits, you could reduce the play cost by 4. For each of these Digimon sources, which would be underneath itself, reduce the play cost by an additional 1. So you already know that there's something going on here. This is not your normal type of playstyle. So if you have an Alphamon and that Alphamon is an 11 cost to play, at the very least it's reduced to a 7 cost. For other people who may not know, also like something like a Magnamon, which is also considered Royal Knight and is 7 cost, can now be played just for a 3 cost. You don't need to digivolve it, and it will be still an active blocker. So just keep that in mind. So then we have another effect here, breeding and start of your main phase. So if you don't know the way that the interactions work, when you hatch an egg or you breed or you promote out to the battle area, that is the start of your main phase. And what you do in there is you reveal the top card of your Digi-Egg deck, which would be most likely itself, and then place that card in all the Digimon with Royal Knights in their traits at the bottom of this Digimon's Digivolution sources. So this also wipes your board and then puts one of itself underneath. Now, keep in mind that, remember, for every source this card has, it reduces the cost by 1. So if you have one Royal Knight in play and one egg underneath it on turn like 2 or 3, then all your other Royal Knights in hand will have a reduced cost of 6, if that was the case. So just keep that in mind right now. And then the breeding area effect inherited is once per turn when you would place an option card with the Royal Knights in its traits in your battle area, gain 1 memory. So first off, you look at this and just generally say, what am I doing with this card? It definitely is a different way of playing the game right now, and I'm not 100% certain what the final, like the win con of this deck is. I'm sure it will soon be revealed, but I do think that this card is definitely something that is different and brings a different view or like way of playing, because I don't think we have any breeding effects. This is the first one that has a breeding effect. So that's kind of interesting. And you wipe your board and you can't digivolve, so it locks you out of a couple of different mechanics, I guess not to make the deck super powerful, and it does stop you from playing some of the other Royal Knights that are already printed. So a lot of stuff is pretty much self-contained in the set if you are playing this version of the deck. One also thing to know about this card, which I realized upon second view of the card myself, was that when you read the Inherited, it says when you place an option card with Royal Knight in its traits in the battle area, gain a memory. So when I read that card, what I automatically think of is 4 Great Dragons and how they play Trial of the 4 Great Dragons as an option card into the battle area. So my thought is that when you do end up playing this deck at some point in the future, you'll probably have some option card that you can play, which basically will allow you to gain additional effects once you use it or place it in the battle area. So that's just something to keep in mind. So anyway, that is the effect of the Yggdrasil. Now let's move on to the next card that I had revealed for us, and that is Richard Sampson. Now, if you also don't know, if you play the if you watch the I think 3rd or 4th season, 5th season maybe, of Digimon, it's Digimon Data Squad, which is basically a self-contained separate story with Marcus Damon. If you don't know who that is, he's the main protagonist, partners with Agumon. And basically this is where we have the original line for Rise Greymon from the series. And Richard Sampson, I guess, is I don't remember every exact detail, but he is one of the main people who works with Marcus and the agencies in the series. So anyway, reason why I bring him up is because he actually has a connection to the Royal Knights, which I'll talk about in a second. So first off, when this Digimon, or when this card is trashed from your security stack by an effect, you can play this card without paying its memory cost. So this is interesting because it basically stops certain effects that like would trash the top of your security and normally have your cards wouldn't have any effect. But now this does have an effect of when trashed from your security, means that you will be able to play this no matter what. And then the security effect is playing the card, of course, we've seen that before. At the start of your main phase, if there is a total of 6 or less cards in both players' security stacks, so if I have 3 and you have 3, or you have 5 and I have 1, gain 1 memory. And then there's another main, is if the total is 6 or less cards in both players' security stacks, by suspending this tamer, one of your Kudamon can digivolve into Kentaurismon in your hand, ignoring the level requirements by paying its memory cost. So this is a good card because Kudamon, we have an original version, but it kind of gains that Impmon effect of Warp Digivolving and Gallantmon and stuff, only by basically having a total of 6 or less cards. So this is a good card to have in play, maybe pretty much like mid-game or late game, so that you can Warp Digivolve into your Kentaurismons, potentially to do other things. So this is pretty good so far. I do like that card. But let's move on to the next one. And we see a familiar face here. It is Savior Huckmon. So Savior Huck is the next revealed Royal Knight that we had revealed for us. And it's the ultimate for Huckmon. Now, what's really cool, like I said, is that you can play decks that have the straight up like Chessmon line or the Alphamon line or whatnot without having to play the egg. So these ones are mainly for those versions of the deck that are going to be just updating the Chessmon decks, the Alphamon decks, stuff like that. So Savior Huck is pretty good here. I will allude to the Bow Huck and Huckmon. I don't unfortunately have the pictures for them, but I can talk about the effects and why they're okay. They're not great, but they're okay. But Savior Huck basically is the best one out of here. Is when you play a Sistermon card in its name, you can digivolve this Digimon card with Chessmon in its name from your hand. So you digivolve Jesmon from your hand, and then by paying the Digivolution cost, and then if you do it this way, the cost is reduced by 2. So if you go into the older versions of Jesmon or the Blitz Jesmon, you basically will be able to gain to reduce the cost by 2, and also because you have a Sistermon, most of the time you can do something like play Sistermon Seal, gain a memory, or gain a memory another way, or digivolve, or play the blocker one, whatever you want to do. Basically, you reduce the cost by playing this card. And then when attacking, you can play a Royal Knight. If this Digimon has Royal Knight in its traits, you can play one Digimon with Sistermon in its name from your trash or hand without paying the memory cost. So we've seen that effect multiple times. So that effect is pretty good. It's pretty standard. We know what it does. But overall, for Jesmon line, this card is going to be really good, and I think it's going to help Jesmon get back on track as a very competitive deck. So next card we have here is Doro Greymon, and Doro Greymon here, we know how good this card used to be. Let's see what they did here. So all the same stats that the other one had, the other Doro Grey. But when digivolving, reveal the top 3 of your deck. Place 1 card with X antibody and its traits among them to the bottom of this Digimon's Digivolution cards. And then if a card is placed by an effect underneath this card, this Digimon's DP cannot be reduced until the end of your opponent's turn. Trash the remaining cards. As an inherited end of your turn, once per turn, you may place 1 Digimon card with X antibody and its traits from your hand at the bottom of this Digivolution cards. So this is interesting because what it looks like they did was they basically did the Greymon effect. They gave it Greymon's effect to just make it Doro Grey, and then they kind of nerfed the other this version by just saying, okay, you'll get the DP reduction. It can't be DP reduced, but you won't get the security +1 effects or anything like that. So I think that's okay. I think that basically just means that against decks that are yellow based or have yellow option cards and effects that DP reduce, that this is going to be their worst matchup. But overall, pretty good card, can be played in the Alphamon deck, and we'll be able to use the Doro Greymons that are the Dex Doro Greymons to continue their effects. So this is looking to be a pretty good set so far, in my opinion. But let's move on. So now we have the first Royal Knight. Now, as far as I know, all the Royal Knights are going to be super rares because this one is a super rare, and once we get into a few more, you'll see there more of them are super rares, but we'll see. But we are here with the first Royal Knight, and I should mention all the Royal Knights have an on-play and when digivolving effect. They're the same basically effect. You could just do it either way. Similar of how the X antibody versions of certain rookie cards, like Gabumon X antibody, can be played or when digivolving gain the effect. By placing 1 Digimon card with X antibody or Royal Knight and its traits from your trash under this Digimon as its bottom source until the end of your opponent's turn, your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 10 or more can't attack a player. So this is kind of the reverse of Congo in the sense that you cannot attack with your Megas against another player, but you can attack if it was 10 or less play cost. So I do find that to be interesting. It's not crazy, but I think it's good. And then this effect is really what helps the deck a lot. Is all turns once per turn, when this Digimon will leave the battle area by effect, by placing 1 card with X antibody or Royal Knight and its traits from this Digimon's Digivolution cards to the bottom of the owner's deck, prevent it from leaving play. So the reason why this is interesting is that, first off, that's really good. It's basically good protection against all the other different decks. It allows you to be able to play under stuff like attacking into a Cocytus Breath or a Gaia Force or anything like that. But not only that, but if you play this card in the Yggdrasil deck, Yggdrasil's effect that puts all the stuff underneath it, this is part of the lore. Alphamon is one of the moderators. He's kind of free from all the effects of the will of Yggdrasil, but it has the ability to kind of disobey its master. That's kind of a big part of the lore. I'm not the exact wording of it, but that's kind of what it does. So Alphamon having that effect is really cool, and it stops Yggdrasil from being able to absorb him as a Royal Knight. So you can actually leave this in play 1 additional turn. So next up we have Jessamon. Now Jessamon is not really too crazy in here. I'm really disappointed on, like, I feel like this one they kind of dropped the ball, but it's okay. I get what they were like trying to do, maybe like a nerfed version. And I'm sorry, this is a rare, so it's actually not a not all super rares. Maybe we'll get another Jessamon that's a super rare in the set. But on play, when Digivolving, choose any number of your opponent's Digimon with a total of DP that adds up to 6,000 or less, or delete them. And then for every other Digimon, add 2,000 to the max DP that you can choose with this DP-based deletion effect. And then all turns, for every other Digimon, every other of your Digimon with Sistermon in its name or Ronite in its traits, all your Digimon gain plus 1,000. So pretty good effect. I really do like that, in the sense that you do get a buff all over your field with it, but I feel like the DP reduction effect is a sort of a lackluster effect. It's good against wide boards or even one really big tall stack, but there are other decks that are going to be out that will be able to avoid deletion from them. So something to keep in mind. Ganko is another one over here, and Ganko over here is pretty good in my opinion. I think he works best in the Yggdrasil deck, but of course you could play him in a Jessamon deck or other decks as needed. But his effect is a blocker. He's a blocker automatically, and then has the same on Digivolving when on play. When you play one Digimon card with Sistermon, you may play one Sistermon from your trash, or one Digimon with Roaring Knight in its traits from the Digivolution cards of your Digimon in your breeding area without paying its memory cost. You cannot play Omnimon or Ganko with this effect. So what this is basically saying is you on-play this or when Digivolve, and then if you Digivolve like in a normal deck, you will be able to bring back a Sistermon. But if you're playing in Yggdrasil, you could bring back other cards like Jessamon that might have been earlier brought into the Yggdrasil sources or something like that. You can actually bring it back out and gain the on-play of that. So I do like it a lot that is one of the main key resources from the deck. So I do think that Ganko is going to be a good way of like putting, allowing you to kind of gain additional advantage in the Yggdrasil deck. But we don't know much more about that. But we're more than halfway, so we're almost done. We have Cranium on here, another SR. So what we have here is an effect of blocker, and then I'm gonna try to do this, say this one smartly, because there is another effect that has a very similar kind of effect. But on play, when Digivolving, this Digimon isn't affected by the effects of your opponent's Digimon until the end of your opponent's turn ends. So basically, what that means is that if you are attacking or using something like Gaia Force, not Gaia Force, something like that Jessamon effect I just mentioned, well, that would not kill this card. Black or Greymon deletion effects would not kill this card, even though I know that doesn't really seem like it would, but yeah. End of your opponent's turn, you may play, choose one of your opponent's Digimon. Your opponent attacks with the chosen Digimon. So basically it forces them to have a blitz, and it could potentially mean that you're attacking into Craniumon. Now, a card that works with Craniumon is the option card that was revealed with it, which is End Waltz, I believe is the name, or Waltz End. Let's see what it's called. End Waltz. And it has an effect. I'm going to try to be very slow when I speak about this one, because it's a little confusing, but it says main, one of your Digimon gets opponent's turn. So this is your during your opponent's turn kind of effect. When this Digimon becomes suspended, delete all your opponent's Digimon with a play cost lower than or equal to this Digimon. So that means basically 13 or less if it's the Craniumon. And then it also gets opponent's turn. This Digimon isn't affected by the effects of your opponent's option cards until the end of your opponent's turn. As a security effect, it deletes one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost, but this is a really good card that works with the deck well. It most likely will also work with Ganko if you choose to play that card in it as well. Now, the next thing I'll mention is the Huckmon and the Balhuck. They basically have the same effects, but we're going to go into the Alphamon here. So let me really quickly just briefly tell you what it does. So Huckmon and Balhuck are the rookie and champion lines for Jessamon. Basically, they have a very similar effect. Is when you play a Digimon with Sistermon in its name, this is the Huckmon effect, you can Digivolve into Balhuck without paying memory cost. And then as an inherited, if you play a Digimon with Sistermon in its name, you gain a memory. Balhuck also, when you play a Digimon with Sistermon in its name, you can Digivolve into Savior Huck from your hand, paying the Digivolution cost. So one basically allows you to not need to pay into Digivolve into Battle Huck, and the other one does say you have to Digivolve. But you can reduce the cost by 2, making it a 1 cost. So more like what the hybrids have, of if it's a Tamer and a hybrid underneath it, you reduce the cost by 2, so it's like a 1 cost for your 5. So we've seen that good before, and that actually might mean that Huckmon and Savior Huck and kind of can go very quickly into their Jesmon. So that's all they do, but we're gonna move past that into the Alphamon line, because I know that it's a long video and I do want to get to the finish, and we are almost there. So nothing very interesting about any of the cards here. So first off, this one over here is the Egg Dorumon. Basically, Dorumon has the effect of, if this Digimon has 4 or more Digivolution cards, draw 1 when attacking. So basically, it's a draw 1. We've seen that before, kind of like the Gorymon if it's 6,000 EP, but this is sources, which I think is what they're looking to start doing with like the Alphamon line in black, is just basically focus on this card is going to have a lot of sources, and if it has a certain amount, then it gains effects. The Dorumon and the Darugamon both have a very similar effect of, if it has X antibody in its traits, gain 1,000. That's all really it is. So it just has, if it's X antibody in its traits, 1,000. So you automatically will go up 2 more spots there. And I think it's all turns. Let me just check that. All turns, yeah. So that's both of them, yeah. Not much left to say. I think there's only 1 card left I do want to quickly mention. 2 more. So this was the most recent one, and as of today is 123, January 23rd, 2023, which only has 2 new cards that were revealed, and that is our Lord Nightmon. But surprisingly, it is actually a purple card and not a yellow card. I'm actually very surprised, because I was really excited to maybe like play more yellow and the Lord Knight, like swarms type of effect, but it'd be interesting to see how this does. So on play, when Digivolving, you can return 1 card with Lucimon in its name or Royal Knight in its traits from your trash to your hand. So this is interesting because Lucimon, we have only 1 in there, which is the on play recover 1 in your security. So I'm wondering if they're gonna have the line for this be something like purple, yellow, dual colors that you can basically digivolve from either, or is it strictly now a purple line and where you're going to be playing level 3s from your hand using this card. Then opponent's turn, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon attacks, for each of your Digimon with Royal Knight and its traits in play, gain 1 memory. So it forces your opponent to kind of lose memory, kind of like an Ice Wall effect, based on how many Digimon you have in play. And you can swarm the field sometimes and have a bunch of them. Remember how Lord Nightmon is a swarm type of deck, so you can play cards out like that. So anyway, that is the last official for BT13. And then there's a promo card here. We can see that card is maybe a box topper for BT13, which is going to be the I think it's called, let me just take a look here, Dracomon. Yeah, this is the one we dual color blue. We get green, 3 to play, dual color blue and green, Digivolve for 1 cost over Baby Dramon. And then your turn, when you have a ground Dramon in play, this Digimon may Digivolve into Wing Dramon, so kind of like a warp Digivolve, from your hand for a memory of cost of 3, ignoring the requirements. And then as an inherited, your turn, when your Digimon, when your ground Dramon is played, so usually you're playing it for 7 cost, this Digimon can Digivolve into Wing Dramon from your hand without paying its memory cost. So basically you get a free Digivolution when you hard play another card. So as of now, this is what we have revealed. I'm pretty excited for this set so far. It's looking to be a really fun set. With that said, please like, subscribe, leave your thoughts below. Let me know which Royal Knight is your favorite and which one will you be excited to play. Take care, have a great one.